there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports. I'm really excited for today's live stream. This is going to be one of the most important games of the entire year. And no, I'm not just talking prospects. I'm talking NBA. I'm talking everything. This is one of the most important games you could spend time listening to, watching, whatever it may be, because this is going to be one of two games that Victor Wembanyama and the Metropolitan 92s come into the United States to take on the G League Ignite in Henderson, Nevada. And of course, this is a big deal because they're playing not only in Henderson, they're playing against Scoot Henderson. Those are the top two prospects in the 2022 NBA draft. Quite clearly, Scoot Henderson will be taking on Victor Wembanyama. If you guys are new to Utility Sports, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're excited for this Scoot Henderson versus Victor Wembanyama matchup. I think it's going to be a really good game. And Jabari Smith Jr. says, wow, they played today. I thought it was Thursday. That's the big point here. They play tonight and Thursday. So they have two matchups against each other here in the coming days, which is really important for draft stock positioning. The reason for that, there are going to be a ton, and I mean a ton, of executives, scouts in attendance at the game tonight in Henderson, Las Vegas. In fact, it's probably going to be the most attended game maybe ever when it comes to NBA executives, NBA decision makers in the building to watch two kids who are under 19 years old play. Both of them very talented young players, clearly the number one and two players in the draft, in my estimation, at least up to this point. Obviously, there's some other talented players as well in this class that, maybe could try and make a run at it, but I think that it's quite clearly the top two between those two teams, or between those two players, and I'm very, very excited about what I expect to see tonight, which we'll get into a little bit later. But again, this is going to be one of the most important matchups. We are just about 13 minutes away from the actual game beginning here, so we will have my live reaction as we go throughout that game. I'm very excited. One little piece of information for you guys. Tomorrow morning, we will be releasing a 2023 NBA mock draft. I'm very excited about that. Have not recorded it yet. I will be doing that tonight after the game, so it's going to be a late night for me, but it's so that all of you guys can enjoy that tomorrow. It's going to be sandwiched right in between Victor Wembanyama versus Scoot Game 1 and Victor Wembanyama versus Scoot Game 2. I thought that was a really great point to put it in. So then that way, hopefully everyone can enjoy it in between those 2 days where we get a day off from watching these two young, talented players play. And again, I'm very excited for what this has to hold for the NBA future, because if Scoot Henderson does really outperform Victor Wembanyama tonight, I think it opens the door to potentially Scoot Henderson getting drafted first overall. Now, it doesn't mean that he's going to. I'm not saying that. But maybe, just maybe, he could become the first overall pick. Of course, Victor Wembanyama earlier this week said, I think that he would be a great number one pick if I was never born, which is obviously a very strong quote to say. I don't think he necessarily meant it the way that it came across, but nonetheless, it came across a certain way, and ultimately it did, maybe raise some eyebrows a little bit to this matchup, even more than, you would maybe expect. I'm very excited about what we are going to see in this game. Again, I think that there's a lot of talent on the floor tonight. Not only those two players, but there's other talents as well, as we get a good look at Scoot Henderson and Victor Wembanyama together here in this image. The two of them look very happy to be standing next to each other. It'd be crazy if one of these teams were able to get first and second pick in this draft and add both of them. Probably not likely, though, just looking at what the draft's going to look like. Mighty Messer says, my Pistons grabbed Jalen Duren at 13 last year. He's still only 18 and the youngest guy in the league. I expect he'll have a better career than Victor. I'm not sure about that, and Mighty Messer, I was a big Jalen Duren guy. I don't think he's going to be better than Victor Wembanyama, but I love Jalen Duren. I think he's going to have an awesome career for sure. And just a reminder, 2023 NBA mock draft coming out tomorrow. That is a preseason edition. I'm very, very excited about that one. I've spent a lot of time learning the prospects over the last couple months and really deep diving into it. So I think it's going to be a very fun video. We're going to talk about guys like Anthony Black, Tariq Whitehead, guys like Jordan Walsh. Arkansas is going to have a really great team this year. Duke as well. Kyle Filipowski, Derek Lively. And then Mighty Messer says Duren steal the century. I think he was a phenomenal pick for sure for the Detroit Pistons. I'm very excited about that. Just when it comes to what this whole thing's going to look like, this is going to be a really awesome game. Brady Thompson, welcome to the stream. He says, yo, what's good? Brady, you've been watching so many of our videos, live streams here. I really appreciate you, Brady. Glad for you to be stopping in here. Make sure you guys all hit that like button as well. That would really help me out. Lets me know I'm doing a good job. And now let's talk about Victor Wembanyama's skill set a little bit before the game. Let's talk about what to expect tonight a little bit. When it comes to Victor Wembanyama, he is not only 7'4", but he's mobile. And that's really where the excitement is around his game. He can pass a little bit. He can handle the rock a bit. And that's where you see him being a generational type prospect, a player we just don't typically see in a majority of NBA draft classes because, one, there's not that many players that big, and when they are that big, they're typically not that skilled. Look at a guy like Taco Fall. Similar size to Victor Wembanyama, but not quite the talent that Victor Wembanyama has when it comes to handling the rock. Now, one thing about Victor Wembanyama, the shooting hasn't quite come up to this point. He's struggling this year, shooting about 25% from three. But on the other hand, like David's saying here, Scoot is really good, but his shot hasn't come along either yet. Last year for G League Ignite, shot 17% on threes. He's very similar to Anthony Edwards in a lot of ways, which I know that's going to be maybe a head scratcher because, Scoot plays a little bit more of a point guard position than Anthony Edwards did. But when it comes to their talent as offensive players, Scoot Henderson, really great slasher, someone who can get to the rim, finish around and above people. I remember he had that one phenomenal reverse dunk last year that just looked like there'd be no way he could elevate for a dunk like that, and he just did out of nowhere. It was one of the most surprising dunks I've ever seen. And he's an elite athlete, similar to what Anthony Edwards is, but the shooting a little bit streakier even than Anthony Edwards, and I would say a little bit less reliable at this point. Now, he was only 17 going into last year. This year, I'm hoping to see him be a lot more refined and technically sound, especially with his footwork. So if Scoot does develop that shot like you're saying, David, he's going to be such a special, good young player, and I'm really excited to see what it holds for him. Light Skin Disgrace says, Victor Obama. That's basically what his name sounds like. Victor Wembanyama, again, a really incredible player and someone who he's one of the best rim protectors I've ever seen. I think I look back at the FIBA U19 World Cup 2 years ago now, or actually, last summer, so a year and a half ago nearly at this point, when he dominated the Team US U19 team. Now, US won gold in that. They did beat France in what was a very close, tight game all the way to the end. And without Kenneth Lofton, they probably wouldn't have won. But he ate up Chet Holmgren's lunch money. He really did. He was clearly the best big. He basically shrunk Chet Holmgren in that game. It was one of the most impressive, dominant performances I've ever seen. I believe he had about 8 blocks in that one. And he was really good on the offensive end as well. Clearly was just the best player on the floor that game. And that was really, eye-opening for me. I've been watching Victor Wembanyama for close to 4 years now. 4, maybe 5 years. I've had my eyes on Wembanyama. So this is a player I've probably been following the longest ever when it comes into a draft class. I know the most about Wembanyama that I've ever known about any prospect because I've had my eyes on him for a long time once I discovered him. And he's such a special talent. Again, I can't emphasize enough how much he needs to just be the first overall pick. Regardless of what happens tonight or Thursday, he just needs to be the first overall pick. And if they don't do that, it's a mistake. Scoot's very, very good as well. Don't get me wrong. But Wembanyama, he's a 2K creative player. If you could make a guy in 2K, you'd be like, yeah, I want him to be as tall as possible. I want him to be able to dribble, shoot. I want him to protect the rim. I want him to be solid out in space. He's a good screen and dive guy. I mean, he just does everything. It's basically like you gave a high school prospect 99 rating in every category. That is Victor Wembanyama in a legitimate way. He's been playing pro basketball, and he's been one of the best players in pro basketball in his league. Obviously, you look at the stats, and they don't jump off the page, but he's really, really good. Point40 says, do you think the Thompson twins should be in the number 1 combo? I do not. Amen Thompson maybe should be around that area. I think he's going to be a top 4-ish pick, but I don't think Ausar is quite there. I think Ausar is just slightly worse than Amen in a lot of different areas. So I think Amen maybe gets the edge there in terms of potentially being in the number 1 conversation. But I think the fact that he plays for Overtime Elite, he doesn't get the same game reps that these two guys are going to get this year. So I just ultimately don't think that Amen Thompson's really going to be in the conversation here. Mighty Messer says a skinny guy like Victor needs to be shooting well to outduel the strong oxes that can leap out of the gym like Duran. Duran won't need 3-point shooting to be a massive force. I do agree with that in some regards, but at the same time, Wembanyama is just a much better player than Duran in a lot of ways. He's much lengthier. He's about 6 inches taller. Put that in perspective here. Duran is about 6 inches taller than Damian Lillard, and Wembanyama is about 6 inches taller than Jalen Duran. Nick Smith Jr., this is a really great question to Quan Gordon. Again, I will have a mock draft coming out tomorrow, so I don't want to spoil too much, but I think Nick Smith Jr. right now, probably his range is anywhere from 3 to 5 or 6 at this point. Obviously, a lot can change. We haven't even seen their freshman years of college. There's a lot that can happen. Maybe Derek Whitehead moves up or down. Maybe Anthony Black has a great year next to Nick Smith Jr. at Arkansas. Maybe Jordan Walsh just looks phenomenal on the wing. There's a lot of different things that can still change at this point, so I'm not going to give you any concrete answer of like, oh, Nick Smith Jr. is going to be the 4th pick in the draft. But I think he'll be anywhere from 3 to 6. I think that range is kind of where we're at. Light Skin Disgrace says mock draft. Yes, we have a mock draft coming out tomorrow. Again, make sure you guys are going to check that out. Probably come out around 10 a.m. Central Time, which would be roughly 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So that'll be something that you guys should keep your eyes out for. I'm very excited about that. Put a lot of work into it over the offseason. Really prepping and ready for it the best I can be. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. But this game is really what we're focusing on now. And part of the reason here that this game is so highly anticipated, think back to last year. And I've been comparing this game to that game last year that I'm about to reference. Duke versus Gonzaga early in the season. We saw Paolo Banchero outplay Chet Holmgren. And ultimately, Banchero went first overall. Chet Holmgren went second. Now, I'm not saying if Scoot Henderson outplays Victor this game, that's going to happen. But that's the type of impact this game and the next game, which is on Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Time. These two games could have that impact where if Wembanyama just doesn't look the part and maybe the G League Ignite team gets the better of him and Scoot Henderson just really outperforms him, that could be an awesome storyline and something to watch. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, and I don't really have any worries about Wembanyama traveling here to America. He's spent a ton of time in America already up to this point. He's gone to a ton of NBA games. We've seen him at WNBA games as well. He is very accustomed to the States already at this point, so you don't have to worry as much when it comes to the overall, travel here. I think he's going to adjust very well, very quickly, so I'm not really worried about him coming into tonight's game. Mighty Messer says Victor versus Chet 2, Mark Williams, as well as another solid non-shooting force. Some real good young big men entering the league to watch battle for the next decade. Exactly. I think there's a lot of really good, talented big men entering the league right now, and there's a lot to ride on that big man spot. I think the center position is one of the most underrated positions across all of sports when it comes to the NBA. To have a good defense, you essentially need a good center, especially someone who is able to battle down low, clean up the glass, protect the rim, and Victor Wembanyama can do all of those things. I'd like to see him put on a little bit of weight, but looking at his frame, I think he's going to be capable of doing that, and I think he's going to be a real problem down the road in the league, especially when you get onto a floor with a little bit more spacing, which is part of the reason I'm so excited to watch him tonight. Remember, we're just a couple minutes away here from the ESPN stream starting up, which I'm very excited for. I think it's going to be such a good matchup and one that I really am so excited about. Light Skin Disgrace says, I love that it's well-rounded big men coming out every year, and it's not like one-trick ponies like Draken Bender or gangly people like that. Yeah, especially at the top. I mean, anyone who's a top 20 pick as a center usually is going to provide a ton of versatility. For example, last year, Chet Holmgren obviously handling the ball, shooting it. He does the whole works, right? Protects the rim. Mark Williams, not quite as versatile, but he's someone who is a phenomenal rim runner. He's a great lob threat. He's going to set nice, meaty screens around the top of the key and off the wing, and even out of the corner if you're running some side pick and roll. You also look at him as a really good rim protector who plays big. He's going to hold his box outs. Walker Kessler wasn't a top 20 pick, but he's one of the best rebounders I've ever evaluated. Scoot Henderson, you ugly, is about 6'3", 6'4", so he's a little bit smaller. Some have him listed at 6'2". I think that's a little light, but again, he's kind of in that range, 6'2" to 6'4". There's nothing official out on him, but he's a guard size, right? He's going to be a point guard size player, which isn't bad. I would love for him to be 6'5", 6'6", and make him a lot more intriguing to me, but he's still an awesome player. But then also, you look at a guy like Jalen Duren last year, really, really versatile big in terms of his ability to switch out on the perimeter, athletically just glides defensively, and he's got the length and shot blocking capability and the athletic burst. He's one of the most explosive athletes in terms of putting his foot in the ground and just leaping to go get a basketball. I'm very excited about all of those centers coming into the league. I think that they're all going to have their own impact in different ways. A lot of different play styles between those four. Holmgren, Duran, more switchable. Maybe less of your true big. But when you look at someone like Mark Williams, Walker Kessler, they're more of your prototypical, hey, we're going to drop them and allow them to do a lot of different things in terms of impacting the game that way, which I'm very excited about. And we've got the game here starting now. Of course, G League Ignite. There's a lot of talent on that team as well. Let's go ahead and I'm actually going to share that as well real quick with you guys. I want to share what the overall roster is looking like. Just so you guys know exactly what we're watching for this game as well, because that's the other thing I'm really excited about. This I didn't get to that point, but I am very excited about other elements to this team as well, especially for G League Ignite. Mets92, there's some talent there as well, but I think G League Ignite's what we're really going to want to focus on for this game. So let's go ahead and pull up NBA G League Ignite roster, and again, there's a lot of talent here. We got some older guys like John Jenkins, Pooh Jeter. Some talent there. But we've got City Sissoko, who's French. He's a 6'8 guard. I like his game. And then we look at a guy like Leonard Miller, who was one of the most tantalizing prospects going into the draft last year. Was the youngest prospect. Ended up pulling his name out of the draft, which I think was a really good decision. But he's a 6'9 forward who's a solid playmaker. I think he's going to have some nice impact. Of course, Sharif O'Neal, anytime you come into a game with the O'Neal last name, there's going to be some eyes on you. Obviously, his college career didn't go quite as planned. His time at LSU didn't either. But Sharif O'Neal, still someone I'm interested in seeing how he plays. I do really like this roster overall. And I think when it comes to where they're at and just their ability to hopefully mesh early on is going to be awesome. Flecko wants to know, are you going to do an NBA awards prediction before or as the season starts? Yes, I'm hoping to get that out this week, actually, Flecko. So that's a really great question. And again, Victor Wembanyama here, the top two projected picks. Scoot Henderson, they have him listed at 6'3", 18 years old, 195 pounds. In comparison to Wembanyama at 7'2" is what they have him listed at. I've heard he's bigger than that. I've heard he's nearly 7'4" and 230 pounds. So I think he's going to be someone who's highly impactful. Again, I'm very excited for the start of this game. And just a reminder that the mock draft is coming out tomorrow. Make sure you guys do subscribe to Utility Sports. Don't miss out on any of the content that we're posting. A ton of different content here. And Point40 wants to know, is Matas Buzelis playing? Matas Buzelis is actually finishing his senior year of high school right now. So that's a really great question. You're getting ahead of me here a little bit, Point40, which I love this question because I love Matas Buzelis' game. For those of you who don't know, he was about a 6'3" point guard who grew about 5 or 6 inches. He's really put on some height, and I think it's going to really blossom what he can be as a player, which I'm very excited about. And like Dang is saying here, yeah, Matas is the class of 2023. So he's still finishing up his senior year of high school, but I think he's going to play for, I think, Sunrise Christian this year, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he's going to have a really nice season for them. And he's going to be on G League Ignite next year. He'll be a really good replacement for them after Scoot Henderson heads to the draft, because realistically, I think there's a chance Matas Buzelis could be a top 2 or 3 pick in the NBA draft of 2024. He's that good. He's that type of player that I think you would want to maybe take a risk on. And obviously looking at it here, Scoot Henderson, John Jenkins, City Sissoko, Leonard Miller, and Eric Mika get the starts. Mika, of course, out of BYU, played his college ball there. So there's a lot of talent on the floor here. They are starting Victor Wembanyama at the 4, which is what I would have expected from them. But again, this is going to be a very fun game that I think has a lot of implications in terms of what we're going to see from these teams moving down the road. And not even just these teams. I think this is a really good tone setter. Interestingly enough, Aaron Henry is also on the Mets92. I think he's a solid guard wing combo that they have playing off of Victor Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama is going to be someone who really changes this team in a lot of ways. Point40 says, Okay, cool. Still excited to see London Johnson as well. Yeah, London Johnson right here, obviously. 6'3" guard as well at this point. I think one player I'm very excited is City Sissoko. I really am excited to see what he looks like in this type of setting. Vincent Collet is the Mets92 head coach, so we'll have to keep our eyes on that. Mighty Messer says, I don't think Teller equates to be better. I kind of consider it a curse to be over 7 foot, as not too many of them have gotten huge. 6'10" to 7 foot sweet spot. I understand, but when you have a talent and skill set like Victor Wembanyama, that's typically what you want to build off of. Thanks everyone for stopping into the stream. Make sure you hit that like button and also subscribe for more. And Victor Wembanyama is stepping out on the court right now as we speak. So again, I'm very, very excited about what we have going on here. I think it's going to be a really great game and one that really is going to have a lot of implications in terms of what we're going to see happen in this one. There's going to be a ton of eyes on this game. Again, like I said, there are a ton of executives in the building there, and I'm very, very hopeful for what this game is going to end up looking like. Victor Wembanyama about to take on Scoot Henderson, working to get the game up for you guys as well. So just bear with me a little bit here as we go through, but I'm very, very stoked for what this is going to look like. And G League Ignite has the ball. Scoot Henderson gets the first basket of the game. Scoot Henderson scores on a left elbow pull-up jump shot. Looked very, very nice. And it's 2-0 G League Ignite. Very impressive. Throughout this game, I'm going to be giving my live thoughts and what I'm seeing. Wembanyama gets his first touch, passes the ball off. They're using him as a screen dive man. Nice little slip action there. And Henry gets an assist into Falfe for an easy dunk. Obviously, Victor Wembanyama is drawing all the eyes. Jacob Gatto says, any chance the Pistons suck enough to be in the lottery again? I think the Pistons will be in the lottery again. I have an Eastern Conference playoff prediction, standing prediction video up on the channel. I recommend go check it out. And Brady says, already a block. Yeah, Victor Wembanyama just got up and got a block. It was scary good. Victor Wembanyama is a special player. I can't emphasize enough how good this guy is going to be moving forward. He is a very, very special talent and someone that I think is going to end up being a really, really nice player for some time in the league. So I'm excited about that. Oh, man. John Jenkins misses one, and Wembanyama tracks it down. That's part of the allure with him, is he's faster than a lot of guards, and he actually walks the ball up the floor here, which you can almost see the drool from league executives as he goes into a face-up move and finishes on a really tough spin. So very impressive stuff from Victor Wembanyama, who gets his first basket of the game. This is insane. And for Carter here, I'm working on getting everything set up here, so hopefully you guys can see certain points of it. Terry in the chat says, Victor has been reserved for San Antonio, guys. All teams just scout for number 2. That's Victor Wembanyama gets a goaltend, and you can see he's playing by FIBA rules there because he was trying to clear the rim after it was rolling around, which is a legal rule in FIBA play, but it is not legal on a G League Ignite court. So that is going to be one problem there for Victor Wembanyama if he doesn't figure that out rather quickly. So we will see if we can get everything working here. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the stream up to this point. Make sure to leave a like. And for a link to watch, try see if this will work. You guys can try this. I'm not sure if it will work for you. It might bring you to an ESPN link where you have to sign in, but try that. It could maybe help. That's what I'm watching from. We will see. Scoot Henderson with the basketball near the top of the key. Passes the ball off. And Scoot Henderson scores evading Victor Wembanyama with an up and under move. A very beautiful layup. Again, I'm having a lot of fun already watching these young players play. Nice basket there from the Mets92. It was not Victor Wembanyama. In fact, I believe that was Waters there, if I'm not mistaken. But Victor Wembanyama on ball here. Playing a lot of drop coverage. And Scoot Henderson attacks, misses the mid-range pull-up, though, with Wembanyama contesting. So, up to this point, Scoot's looked pretty good. And oh my goodness, guys. Wembanyama just caught a lob one-handed with a guy underneath of him. And, yeah, he looks a little scary. My goodness. Mika with the ball on the top. Scoot Henderson scores around Victor Wembanyama. Wow. Scoot looks really, really good in this game right now. One question I had, one thing I was watching for this game was how is he going to play around size and length, especially someone like Wembanyama? So far, he doesn't even seem like he notices Wembanyama in the lane, which is a real positive, obviously. This game has been just tremendous as I welcome in my co-content creator here, Austin Host. Welcome to the stream, Austin. Austin, what's your early impression so far?
Oh, I haven't watched it, so can't tell you.
Here, you're having a little bit of mic difficulty, so try unplugging and returning up, and I'll re-add you. Wow, I am very, very impressed with what we're seeing up to this point. This game has been really good to start. I mean, really, really good. I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, we're working on getting that echo resolved here. Let's re-add Austin in and see if we're doing good. Austin, can you hear me now?
Hopefully it's not echoey.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit better. Do you have headphones by chance? Because I think it's picking up my mic the second time.
Okay, I turned it down. Maybe it should be better.
Yeah, hopefully. Let me see. Yeah, I think we're good now. So, okay, sweet. But it's Austin. Scoot Henderson's been really impressive so far. He's driven right at Wembanyama a couple times and finished right around him. So, G League Ignite's getting what they want around the rim, which is one question I had here. Again, welcome everyone to the stream. Hopefully you guys are enjoying. If you are, make sure to leave a like and also subscribe. Don't forget that we have a 2023 NBA mock draft coming out tomorrow that I'm very excited about as well. Some NBA stars in attendance there as well. Trevor Ariza, one of them, probably not an NBA star, but Chris Paul is, and he is there as well. Man. Oh, we are saying echo again. Okay, let's we'll see if we can get that worked out for you guys. Sorry about that. Victor Wembanyama on the wing, pull up 3-point jump shot, butter. Oh my goodness, from Victor Wembanyama. What a special talent. Absolutely insane. This draft class is gonna be a problem. Oh my gosh. Scoot Henderson one-on-one with Wembanyama. Step back three. Got it. Oh my goodness gracious. Scoot Henderson with a huge jump shot. Let's see if this is any better now, guys. I think we are good here now. Yeah, Mighty Master, I think we're set up now. I think we should be good, hopefully. So let us know again in the comments if something's going on. We've been having a little bit of technical difficulty, but hopefully it should be a little bit better. Scoot Henderson backs the rim, does not get a call. Leonard Miller.
All right, now we should be okay. Should have some echo cancellation here. I think we should be good to go on our end.
Hopefully that's working. I don't hear myself, so that's a positive sign. Austin knows all about hearing himself when we're on the Xbox mic together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Brady Thompson
I did get to watch Scoot Henderson on his step back three. That was absolutely insane. Absolutely crazy.
He's a problem. Daniela here says, can you explain what these teams are? I only know NBA and G League. So G League Ignite here, the team that Scoot Henderson plays for as we go to commercial break, is a a team that's focused on development for players who have pro careers ahead of them, like Scoot Henderson. Matas Buzelis will be the headliner next year. A lot of good young talent there. And for the Mets92, it's basically a pro league, but overseas. So, think about kind of an NBA, but in France. That's what we're somewhat looking like. Again, not quite to the level of the NBA, but good talent there for sure. And thank you guys. I'm glad you guys are sticking in here too. This game is probably the most important game of the NBA draft cycle this year. Just quite frankly, it's going to really solidify 1 and 2. This Mighty Messer says Scoot has the better name. Everyone should want a guy named Scoot. This is like Austin. Does that not scream Nick?
That absolutely does. That absolutely does for sure.
I think we are picking up some static again. I don't know what is going on.
That's okay. Just remove me from the live. This is awesome.
Try your cord going into the Yeti itself, if you know what I mean. All right, Austin's going to keep working on that. We're trying to stay on top of it. I don't know what the issues have been, but so far I've been really impressed. My early takeaways here, Scoot Henderson wants to be the number 1 overall pick, and he's playing like it in certain ways, but Victor Wembanyama is not going to give that up either. Right now it's 15-11 G League Ignite out on top after a timeout. We will see exactly what happens going forward. There's a lot of different talent when it comes to this game. Again, Leonard Miller had a nice tough finish around Victor Wembanyama as well. Mighty Messer says Sterling is silver then. Maybe number 2 is his destiny. It seems like it is, honestly, at this point, just given where they're at. But again, Scoot Henderson, he's the headliner. Let's go ahead and get him up on stream here. Scoot Henderson, he's the player we're really watching today. Of course, John Jenkins there as well, Marcus Graves. But guy in the middle, the man in the middle, that's what we're watching on both ends of the floor. Brady Thompson says, didn't know Hugo Bassan was in this game. Nice. Hugo Bassan, definitely a player that I really like during the draft cycle. I think he's going to have a pretty nice NBA career ahead of him. Got drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks. Isn't over in the NBA yet, but he is out on the floor right now. Austin, I think we should be set up now, hopefully. Again, thank you guys for letting us know, and we get a nice run-out steal by the Mets92. Daniela, interesting piece of information. Boris Diaw is president of the Mets92. I did not know that, but obviously bringing in Wembanyama, a good move. So, Austin, let's head back to your thoughts on Scoot Henderson, that step back 3 you got to watch just a few minutes ago. We are not picking up any audio here from you. Let's see what we got here. Can you can hear me though in your mic?
Yeah, I can hear everything.
Now we can hear you. Okay, it's working now. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Wonderful display of athleticism, footwork, the ability to get his shot off. Clearly the much lankier defender. Honestly, that was impressive because I haven't seen a ton of Scoot Henderson myself. Because I'm newer to the draft cycle here, so it all starts tonight. A lot of my bias for the rest of the season will be based off of this game. So, first impressions are everything for me.
Yeah, like last year, Austin, I was telling our viewers here that last year, you and I, just like this game, we got to watch in person, we were watching in person together last year, but Chet Holmgren versus Paolo Banchero. Ultimately, Duke won that game. Paolo outplayed Chet Holmgren. We saw Paolo go first overall. And you and I were talking off camera a little bit. Not 100% certain that this would be the case, but if Scoot Henderson does put on a show tonight and G League Ignite runs the Mets92 and he just looks like the better player tonight and maybe Thursday, that maybe opens the door to some conversation on who the first overall pick should be. Obviously, a lot of people right now prefer Wembanyama. I myself do as well. And I think that it would be a mistake to take Scoot Henderson over him, although Scoot is a really good player himself. So if he continues to show out like that, a couple nice finishes in the lane, some step back threes, he maybe opens the door for that. Austin, how important do you think these head-to-head matchups should be when it comes to draft evaluation?
I think it's very important here, and I did adjust my mic according to the comments as well. I turned it down a little bit, so shouldn't be too loud now. But I think a lot of it has to do with all of the eyes are on these games, and all evaluators should be watching this game right now at the NBA level. I think that's honestly, when you go head-to-head, it's iron sharpens iron, and these guys are definitely going to be getting after it all night long. Overall, I think it's kind of interesting to think that this game very well could kind of change the complexion of how the draft shakes out, which is crazy to think because this is literally game one of, real competitive play. So something I want to re-prompt you with is the overall development of the NBL. And, over the last couple of seasons, we've seen more and more players come from the NBL, more players go overseas after they're done collegiately to play there to, obviously get better and have a shot in the league. Is this the second best league in the world?
The NBL, I think, is right in the conversation for that. The EuroLeague's a little bit more. There's been more stability. It's an older league. There's been more players that have gone through that. But you look at what Adelaide did the other night to Phoenix. That was not a huge surprise to me. And I know a lot of people really reacted to that in certain ways. And I understand the Phoenix Suns should have won that game. There's not an excuse to losing to them. They are better than them. But I think that there's been a lot of development there. And I think one of the main reasons why the NBL kind of got put on the map by LaMelo Ball in a lot of ways. Had LaMelo Ball not went to the Illawarra Hawks, I think we're maybe talking about a different league completely. He brought so many eyes, so many jersey sales to that league that I think that, he kind of opened the eyes for a lot of NBA players to even use that league as maybe a stepping stool to get back to where they want to go ultimately. For example, Aaron Baines is over there this year. Obviously, he is Australian, so he's got a little bit of that natural knowledge of that. But NBA players are willing to go now to the NBL and play there. Another example, Bryce Cotton. He was actually the MVP of the NBL last year. Played phenomenally. He stuck around in the G League a little bit. Had a ton of tryouts in the NBA. Bryce Cotton's over there, kicking butt pretty much every single night. I wouldn't be surprised that if he were to make it back to the NBA at some point, you think potentially he could. But ultimately, I think the NBL is right in the conversation if they are not for sure the second best team or second best league in the world when it comes to basketball. And Hugo Bassan, by the way, I have to shout out my guy. Hugo Bassan had a nice little 2-point runner just a few moments ago. Austin, what's your thoughts on in terms of Victor Wembanyama? We haven't really seen a player like this. Obviously, Chet Holmgren's gonna be the guy he gets comparisons to. He kind of kicked Chet Holmgren's butt a few years ago. Are you worried about, maybe how lanky, skinny he is? Do you think that's a problem, especially with him only hitting about 26% of his threes as of right now?
Well, I think if you get caught up too much in terms of like their actual bulk and stuff, it's really hard to develop a body fully and also develop a skill set, by, their current age. And I think that's a big problem. People are looking at it as these guys are robots and they should be through a certain body progression and skill set progression at said age. And it's not really realistic for a guy who, every single year continues to grow and grow, and you have to refigure out coordination of your body. That's the big issue I have with people talking about, the skill set's not there or, the bulk isn't there. A lot of people have to realize that it takes some time to grow into, a body like that. There's very, very few cases where guys are fully developed, as soon as they get out of high school, basically, and going forward. But I think that's something that is severely overrated. Is you look at a guy like, Kristaps Porzingis, very, very frail coming out. However, ended up being a very, he's a great NBA player, very, very good, number 2 in this league. Therefore, I think that you shouldn't get too hung up on the actual physical side of things.
Right. I do want to address a comment here from Bull. And I figured that one of these was going to come because there's always this, people get up in arms for no reason about this. One thing here, the EuroLeague plays a completely different brand of basketball. So if you think the EuroLeague's the second best league in the world, they play completely differently from the NBA, which is why they can't beat NBA teams. They just don't play the same style of basketball. It's much more team-oriented, which really works for their league, but it limits what great individual players can do, whereas the NBL has really more emulated the NBA's play style in terms of open floor, play through your best player, stuff like that. The NBL, or the EuroLeague, tends to work more as a team-oriented passing game. It's just completely different. And I knew that there was going to be a comment like this too. EuroLeague's way harder than G League or NBL. I'm just telling you right now, if you put a player like Josh Giddey in the EuroLeague and let him isolate, I'm just going to say this. He would be really, really, really good there because the EuroLeague's not built to defend that. The EuroLeague's built to defend team basketball. The EuroLeague offensively is built to play team basketball. For example, when you get in a pick and roll situation, a lot of the time they're going to kick, swing, and try and find the dive man as the roller instead of actually running a real pick and roll. It's just completely different games. And quite frankly, I don't think the EuroLeague could hold the NBA nearly as well as the NBL can. So if you're looking at head-to-head comparisons, the NBL is going to play the NBA a lot more competitively because they are very similar stylistically. In the EuroLeague, again, if you're going to be less athletic, less talented, you're not going to win that way against NBA teams. I just really don't think you will. And Joe says it's not popping up on ESPN. Make sure you're on ESPN2. That's where it is. Mighty Messer, as for the G League, I'm counting the G League as part of the NBA. They're affiliates in the NBA. Each NBA team has a G League affiliate. It's the same league, really. So I'm not, even though it says G League, I'm not counting it as a separate league. I think it's still part of the same thing. Everyone, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We have not had some of the stars in the game the last couple minutes or so, but I'm really excited for this draft cycle for sure. We've got a lot of fun, talented prospects. Austin, I'm gonna say this real quick. I think that this might be the best draft class I've ever evaluated.
That's an insanely bold take, considering we haven't even started the actual true evaluation yet of this season. Granted, you've had film on some of these guys before. That's a bold statement. I think the comment section should razzle you for that one. That's wild.
They probably will. When aren't they, right? They just always.
So let me ask this, kind of looking at the two rosters here, and I'm kind of just sifting through the G League Ignite team here. Interesting names. I kind of look at a couple of these guys, and who would you deem is the second best player on Ignite behind Scoot?
That's a really good question. I think this season's going to really showcase that. I think there's a chance that City Sissoko becomes that. Pujetter was really important for G League Ignite last year. Not that he's, in that conversation, but I think he's an important player for them. And I think a player who maybe by the end of the year could become that is Leonard Miller. You know how I felt about him last year. He was an unwatchable draft prospect last year, in my opinion. Someone who just wasn't ready for the league. And I think this is a really great opportunity for him to get NBA level coaching and development. And I think by the end of the year, maybe we see a guy like Leonard Miller take that jump up where he's, relatively young compared to a lot of these guys. He's one of the youngest players in this next year's draft even. So I think that he's going to be a phenomenal player probably toward the end of the year. If not, he'll probably have to stay in G League Ignite one more year with Matas Buzelis. But I think that's a great question. I think if I had to bet end of the year, I'd say Leonard Miller. If I had to bet right now, I'd say one of either John Jenkins or City Sissoko, just because Jenkins has kind of that NBA experience a little bit under his belt with, the Hawks and some other teams as well along the way.
Another player I do want to highlight, one that's pretty true and people love to defend him, is Sharif O'Neal. Definitely a guy that everybody was super excited about. He's a for sure slam dunk, going to be a draft pick. There's a lot of people that were saying that this guy was going to be a lot like his, at least, an NBA caliber player. Now, let's explain what went wrong. Obviously he had his heart issues. And then we look at, you watch the film from UCLA, you watch the film from LSU. This guy was not even a rotational level player at LSU. What went wrong, and is there a chance to correct that?
Yeah, I think the injuries are and the availabilities first and foremost the most important thing. Having rhythm, I think, is important. But when you look at him, he's one of those tweeners where he's not a tweener in terms of his size, but he's a tweener in terms of his skill set. He's someone who has more of a guard type skill set, but he's not good enough to be a guard in a way, like in terms of his skill sets, more built as a perimeter player, in my opinion. But he's not supremely skilled like even a Victor Wembanyama is, or, Chet Holmgren with how dominant he was at Gonzaga. I think that's really the first issue. And then the second issue really compounds it with functional strength for the position. If you're going to play him as a 4 or 5, you need to get some, bang for your buck in terms of rebounding, physicality, defensively. And I think that he just doesn't have that. You look at his frame, he's very slight and thin. And I think part of the injuries contributed to that early in what would have been his collegiate career. He would have had a good chance at maybe putting on some muscle and filling out his body a little bit. We just haven't really seen that from him, obviously. So I think that there's a few reasons why he's not what we think he could be, or what we thought maybe he could have been 3-4 years ago when he was, quote unquote, snubbed from being a McDonald's All-American. But it's definitely one of those stories that you wonder, had he been healthy, could things have been different? And that's really one of the questions that I don't think we'll ever really have an answer to, because I just don't see him as an NBA guy. Unfortunately, I'd be surprised if he ever plays a meaningful minutes of NBA basketball. And I don't want to be too critical, but just realistically, he's not on that level, in my opinion. I love seeing the EuroLeague defense too. I figured that would come after saying what I'd say, because people just get big mad about it. But I'm just gonna say Bryce Cotton could hang with any guy in the EuroLeague, and I don't think it's really like a surprise to say that. Like, I think Bryce Cotton would be probably one of the best, if not the best, players in the EuroLeague, just like he is in the NBL. So that's just my opinion. But we are at the end of the first quarter. So Austin, overall thoughts up to this point on the first quarter of this game?
I mean, you got to look at it. The pace has been pretty good. It's been pretty exciting, honestly, back and forth. After kind of watching, the second part of that first quarter, definitely good pace to play. These guys are making some tough shots for sure. So overall, I didn't get to see all of the Wembanyama run, but from what I saw, decently impressive. I think it's going to pick up a little bit third and fourth quarter, though. I think that's when we're going to see the best product of the basketball game. Not only are they going to be warmed up, but it's really going to be go time. And these two prospects, Scoot and Victor, both know the ramifications of this game. This goes a long ways in determining, who's the number one player in this class. And before you started this game, probably 90% of America would have said that it was going to be Victor Wembanyama. But, I mean, Scoot's definitely, he's played well from what I've seen so far. And, maybe he plays himself into number one. I don't think that's entirely likely. But, once again, it's a long season. It's a grind. You got to be able to, string it together for the entire season. I mean, one game, it does not define you. And that's very true. But this is one that's going to stick in your mind pretty much regardless, like we talked about with Banchero and Chet last year. A lot of times when we were going through that draft process and talking about it, we referred to that game when you were comparing the two, those two players in the draft class. Okay, well, how do they play head to head? And, is it super fair for Scoot and Wembanyama, two guys that, don't even play, the same position? No, not really. But you're also kind of looking at their head to head and, who is the better team player, who is the better individual, and, what player is actually going to show out, which I think both of them will,
right?
Which they have to this point.
Yeah, I've been very impressed. I think one thing when it comes to the draft process, and especially individual workouts, remember, any team picking one's going to have both of these guys in the building. And when it comes to an NBA decision maker, I'm sure the average height's about 6'3" to 6'5" for those guys. And, the one thing that's going to do Scoot Henderson in there as he brings it up across the timeline, he's a foot and 2 inches shorter than the other prospect. And Scoot Henderson here actually gets blocked at the rim, but they call a foul. It's going to be hard for a decision maker to look at the guys that he's comparing and say, wow, one of them's a foot taller than me and the other one's 2 inches shorter than me. Which one would I want to draft? I think that's probably going to be the case closed reasoning on why Wembanyama goes before Scoot Henderson on draft night. I would be surprised if that doesn't still play out that way. But Henderson's been really special tonight. And the one thing that's really impressed me with him is just his willingness to attack the paint, even with Wembanyama in there. First play of the game, he had a nice little pull up at the elbow. I think it was like 7th or 8th play of the game or something. He took the ball to the rack and evaded Wembanyama in the air. And then, of course, Austin, you saw that step back three that he had too with Wembanyama. It looks like he's really wanting that matchup. And a player I talked about in the open a little bit, comparing him to, is Anthony Edwards. I think they have a similar skill set in terms of their ability to, attack the rim, athleticism. Henderson's a little bit more of a true point guard, not quite a true point guard, but a little bit more than Ant. I think that there's some comparisons to them, and I think maybe that, want it factor is something I kind of see between those two guys as well. What do you think on that?
Yeah, no, I definitely think so. And something I do want to kind of prompt you with here after kind of watching here, Scoot was trying to fight through a screen, really sat down on it, didn't play through it, and then, they obviously give up the easy basket there. But what is his limitations defensively, if there are any?
I think obviously the size, that's where pretty much every single talent evaluator starts, is how big is this guy? If a guy's 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan, they write plus length. And if a guy's 6'3" or 6'2"
Wow.
at a guard,
I'm just going to stop you right there, because after I just said that, comes up the steal and a massive dunk.
Yeah, and that's really
Wow.
the thing here. Fundamentally, I think he's not sound, but the one thing he's going to do, similar to Anthony Edwards, again, I'm going to keep going back to him, is he's going to be athletic, and he's going to get in passing lanes, and he's going to be disruptive, even when he's not a great defender. And like Brady Thompson's here saying, Showtime, Scoot, we did get to see that. And Austin, I'm sure you know the athleticism jumps off the screen when you're watching. So I'm really excited to hear more about your early impressions here on Scoot as well this game.
Well, here's the deal. I've seen two times him trying to get around a screen. Absolutely terrible. I mean, terrible effort on that side of it, but I mean, him getting the steal and absolutely, blowing past everyone to slam it home, that was awesome. That it's not uncommon for players to get lazy like that when they have to carry such a load offensively. But overall, that's something that's correctable. That's not an inability to do something. It's, I think, more so a willingness and kind of an actual technicality issue. So, I mean, I would like to see Scoot, obviously be a little better, getting through the screen or communicating through the screen a little bit better, because he's put a ton of pressure on the interior defense to, recover and rotate over. So,
right. One thing I do want to point out real quick for our draft community in here, I can't go a live stream without taking some type of shot at Sam Presti. Shout out to him for having about 17 draft picks over like a 6-year span, and only one of them come in the year that there's Scoot Henderson and Victor Wembanyama, by the way. Probably two of the 4 or 5 best prospects in terms of the last 4 or 5 years, and he only has one shot to get up there because he's traded away. At one point, he owned 5 first-round picks in this draft and has traded all of them away. So maybe a little bit of lack of good decision-making from Sam Presti, but, that's kind of where we're at right now.
So let's talk about the G League Ignite. Fill me in on their head coaching situation, because I'm not entirely familiar with their head coach.
Yeah, so the G League Ignite, they've gone through a lot of head coaches over the last 3 years since their startup. I believe right now their head coach is Jason Hart, who he's, I believe, in his mid-40s or so. He was a former NBA player. I think he got drafted in like the second round, like probably around the time you and I were born, honestly. So I haven't seen him play myself, but I know he's been connected to the NBA for a good majority of about 20 to 25 years in some capacity. And I think, it's been interesting. I think the one issue with G League Ignite up to this point is there's been so much turnover. As we see Scoot Henderson miss a free throw here. There's been a ton of turnover and not necessarily in a good way. So one thing I really like about their current team is that they have Pujetter back, which I know doesn't sound like a big deal. And really, realistically for the play, it's not. But he was a really vocal guy. Last year, especially for a guy like Jaden Hardy, who we saw go in the second round, and having more guys, Marjan Beauchamp really liked Pujetter as well. Having a veteran type player like Jeter there, I think does help a lot when you're looking at developing this young talent, which is what the goal and plan is of this league. So I think realistically, just given that as Hugo Bassan scores again, he's an NBA level player. I've been telling everybody that for a while. But I think that I'm hoping that Hart can at least stay in that role for 3 or 4 years, because they've just struggled to hold a head coach in that spot. And City Sissoko hits a step back 3 as well. That's I don't know. I was hard to not like his game a little bit just with the size at the guard spot. Oh, Leonard. Oh man, I don't know. Maybe I want to take my Leonard Miller take back, Austin.
Yeah, I think Leonard. I stand by my statement of him being one of the worst players I've ever seen. Truly.
Victor Wembanyama.
Scoot Henderson is insane. I am trying to stay calm during this, but man, his transition game. I mean, he attacks downhill. He can pull up in the mid range. He can finish around the rim. Can create shots for himself. There's a lot to like about him, and I I'd be hard pressed to say that there's not at least a conversation for him going 1.
Right, and that's what the whole point of this game is, and that's why we're having this live stream right now. Is like up to this point, I think he has outplayed Wembanyama. I wouldn't say significantly. Wembanyama's definitely had his moments here too. You know, a block the first or second defensive possession of the game, and he's also had a pull-up 3 in his own right. But Scoot's looked really, really good, and there's a lot of talent there as well. If he was 3 or 4 inches taller, he'd probably maybe have a really, really good shot at being the first overall pick. I ultimately do think that the physicals are going to be something that maybe limit him being the first overall selection. But at the same time, going into last year, I thought, hey, Chet Holmgren's probably going to be the first overall pick, and we saw Banchero go 1. So there's a lot of unknowns at this point about what's going to happen, but Scoot is really, really good. Mighty Messer here says, I take Scoot in Detroit. Scoot 1, Ivy 2, Cade 3 could happen. Cade is up 20 pounds. They could always decide to add a jet guard who won't be the primary ball handler. I mean, that if Detroit ends up with Scoot Henderson, that would be so unfair. I'm hoping for league balance that doesn't happen, because that trio just sounds really scary. Also, you know how I feel about Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham too. So,
well, you're a Detroit Pistons fan now after all of that. So if they get Scoot Henderson, it's over.
Yeah, I went from not liking Detroit to all of a sudden really liking Detroit. Papa here has a great question. Says, are you guys as Americans skeptical about his potential injuries because of strangers like Embiid not playing for your KP being so soft and fragile? Or do you estimate him as a potential MVP contender? For me, I don't know if he's ever going to win an MVP, which I know sounds crazy, because I would also make the argument that he's maybe the best draft prospect I've ever seen. The reason why I don't think he wins MVP is because of his play style.
Just keep watching. This is crazy. This is crazy. His ability to do this.
Yeah, he's like that's and remember a year and a half ago I watched him dwarf Chet Holmgren in a way that I didn't think was possible. I don't think he's going to be an MVP candidate just because of his play style. I don't know if he'll ever put up 25 and 10, and he'll probably average for his career 18 and 12, which is awesome. I just don't know if it's MVP level. But I think the one thing with Wembanyama is defensively he could be Defensive Player of the Year candidates, which is why even if there is potential injuries, you have to take him and roll with the punches with that. But I'm not skeptical about his injuries just because of where he's from or anything. I think, he's had a couple injuries up to this point, but nothing severe or dramatic that would make me think, hey, this guy shouldn't be the first overall pick.
A lot of times, not even just basketball. I think, injuries that occur to players are looked at too much under a microscope of, a lot of people assume the worst with it. It's, he had an injury here and injury here. Is he injury prone? It's separate instances where, yes, a player might get hurt. However, I don't think you should necessarily label them as injury prone, or you look at a guy's frame, assuming that he's going to get hurt all the time if he's, skinny. And that, bigger players get hurt too. I mean, a guy, lands wrong on his ankle and snaps his ankle. I mean, that's, once again, Paul George had a really great frame, and Gordon Hayward, all those guys had good frames, and it doesn't stop those kind of injuries. So
right. You could make the same argument Scoot Henderson's a crazy athlete as a guard. Is he the next Derrick Rose? Injuries are going to happen to some players, and there's not really anything you can do unless you have concrete medical records, which sometimes you don't even have going into the draft because the agents usually withhold that stuff for teams that they don't want their player to get drafted by for whatever reason. They just limit who has what information. So unless there's actual real medical concerns that are popping up all over the place, like what was happening with for example, Bol Bol's knee, and then it ends up being an actual dramatic problem. And it's not because Bol Bol's 7'3", it's because he just had knee issues. We've seen that in 6'7" players. We saw, like you said, Austin Paul George was a great example because he's 6'8" wing. He's this is perfect. He's got a good body frame, and he's playing USA basketball and runs into a stanchion. It's just something completely random that you can't control. But again, Scoot Henderson could get injured this game. We don't know. That's kind of the whole thing with injuries. But I understand some of the ideas. You look at Yao Ming, had some of those injuries as well. Scoot Henderson with a really impressive handle to this point, Austin.
Yeah, Scoot. I mean, I like his escape dribble, dude. It's just so quick. It's explosive. He creates so much separation with just that little escape dribble. Giving him a lot of room to work. It's crazy because that's really what allows him to get his shot off too.
Right, and he's so athletic as we see Wembanyama take a mid-range.
Oh my goodness! I think I saw what you were just referring to there. To get to 49 points, was that the one you were referring to?
Yeah. Scoot Henderson is insane. That move right there is maybe one of the best moves I've ever seen from a prospect in my entire time evaluating.
I'm gonna watch that probably 4 times tonight.
Austin's getting very excited by Scoot Henderson. Victor Wembanyama struggles to take it into the chest of I believe that was City Sissoko there, and John Jenkins shoots but misses. Would have been his 5th 3 of the game, I believe. City Sissoko's been working hard this game.
Wow, I still can't believe that move.
I wonder if we can find that for our viewers on Twitter already. I'm gonna actually try and find that one because you guys really, really need to see that play. That was mental. What just went down.
Oh yeah, that's gonna get posted to TikTok here for our viewers as well. I'm gonna go back and find that. Ooh, God, that's filthy.
Yeah, that is.
I'm a fangirl. This is not good, dude. I normally don't even care about NBA, draft prospects, but this one, this is good. This is really good right here.
Oh man, Scoot Henderson, man, he's making a name for himself. If you didn't know who he was now, coming into today, you have to know who he is after today because that was some move, something I was not ready to see today. He's very, very athletic and capable and a really good ball handler, but my goodness. Here we go. I've got the link pulled up. It might be a little laggy, but we are going to try and make it work. Hopefully it's not too bad for you guys so you guys get to actually see what it looks like. But again, this is going to be absolutely insane once you guys see what he was able to pull off here. Again, in live action, had no regard for human life at all. Let's see if we can get this pulled up. Here he is, obviously a little blurry, but again, very great move, finishing around Victor Wembanyama and looking really the part of maybe the first overall pick in the next year's draft. Look at the move again here. That is, again, not that should not be legal what we are seeing from him. I'm going to just leave that on for a little bit here. Just keep an eye on this. The crazy thing is that where he pulls the ball from behind his back into through his legs. That's a high level of creativity that you just typically don't see from an 18-year-old ball handler like that through traffic. That is something special for sure. So we'll keep that on the stream here just for a little bit. Again, something crazy. I was not ready for that. But again, very, very incredible play from Scoot Henderson there. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the live stream. If you are, make sure to hit that like button and also subscribe. Don't forget that we do have an NBA mock draft coming out tomorrow. Preseason edition. Probably will be the only one for a couple weeks or so, but hopefully you guys do enjoy it. Very excited about this. As we have about 5 minutes to play in the first half. Probably have an argument that Hugo Bassan's been the best player for the Mets92 squad this game. Brady Thompson's at 18 in the first half. Scoot's looking nice. Yes, he does look very, very nice. Mighty Messer says the NBA is tough and filled with super stocky big guys at 4 and 5. The guys who are not super physical need to shoot. Dirk was 7 foot and made by his shooting. I mean, Dirk Nowitzki was a lot more than a shooter as well, but I understand kind of the thought process there that you had as big question. Wow, Wembanyama did not run back in transition there. As G League Ignite has a 16-point lead right now. with 4 minutes and 20 seconds to go in the first half, which is very, very concerning. This has been insane.
Okay, I am getting that posted to TikTok, by the way. That's what I've been working on here.
Nice. Yeah, make sure you guys go follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. Links are in the description for those, so go in there right now, click the link, and hit follow on all 3 of those platforms. We would greatly appreciate it. Okay, and heck, if you follow us on Twitter right now, I'll even shout you out in the stream. Papa says the thing with Victor is that he can dribble and pull up like Kevin Durant, defend like AD, and has the basketball IQ of an elite player. Give him 50 pounds and he'll be unstoppable. I mean, yeah, that's a long way, though. 50 pounds is about a fourth of his body weight right now. So it's going to take a little bit for him to put that on. But Team Ignite's been very impressive this game for sure. Victor Wembanyama at the line as we speak. $14-point game. Again, a very impressive start to the game by Scoot Henderson, who is no longer in the game right now. Wembanyama is out there, though. Wow. That's a weak foul on Wembanyama. I don't think that's a great call there. Point for us says, Scoot from my city, is crazy how much better he got so fast. Yeah, he's insane with how good he got over the last year. Just from this game alone, he looks a lot better than he was last year. You know, last year he really struggled with efficiency at certain times. He's always able to score around the rim and everything and get there. I just think that, sometimes his shot selection was a little lesser. Now, maybe if he's missed a couple of the shots he's made tonight, maybe I'd be saying the same thing. So, you always have to take one game with a grain of salt, but we'll see. And Papa does bring up a good point here. It took 4 to 5 years for Giannis to become an MVP contender. Very fair point. I would say Wembanyama is much better now than Giannis was at that time. And Austin knows I really liked Giannis coming into the draft.
Yeah, Brady, definitely. Yeah. Now, something I do want to bring up for Scoot Henderson quick is let's take the hypothetical route that, he doesn't go the G League route. What if he ends up going to college? I want you to try to guess the 2 schools that he was down to. Yeah. Now, I don't know if I should tell you where he's from because that will. I'm not going to tell you.
He's from the Southeast, right?
Yes, he is Southeast.
Okay. I knew this at one point, but I don't remember now. Is one of them a big basketball school?
Yeah, not really. Neither are huge basketball schools.
Okay. I feel. I don't know. I feel like one of them might have been Tennessee, but I don't know.
Yeah. So the 2 schools that they said that he turned offers down from allegedly. Auburn was one of them. The other one was Georgia because he is from Georgia, Marietta,
okay.
Georgia.
I thought Georgia might be it, but I thought maybe I'm just thinking of Anthony Edwards 2.0 too much. But that would have been, dude. Had he went to Georgia, it would have literally been the same player.
Yeah. Well, right, exactly.
Man, that would have been nuts.
Yeah, I am absolutely blown away,
dude. This class this year, Austin. Some of the players coming from Montverde, they always develop guys. They always have guys. This year's Montverde class is pretty darn good.
Is it crazy?
Yeah, you're gonna like Derek Whitehead quite a bit, and you might you might really like Dylan Mitchell, who's going to Texas. So
okay, yeah.
So Phony says, do you think Scoot now is a better prospect than Ivy was after last season? I mean, right now, Scoot looks better than Ivy was. I'm not going to just definitively say that the first game of the year. I mean, we're going to have 12 to 15 more G League Ignite games that I really need to watch and study before just saying, oh, Scoot's better than Ivy just because, hey, one game he's shooting the ball really well. Let's say on Thursday when these 2 teams play again, if he goes 1 for 8 from 3, everyone will say, oh, wow, he's way worse than Ivy. I don't want to go too much with the ebbs and flows of the season. I try to stay very even keeled throughout it. But realistically, I looked at Scoot like he was probably going to be better. And I loved Ivy last year. Everyone knows that's been watching the channel. I loved Jaden Ivey, but I think that had Scoot been in the class last year, he would have won first overall probably, just with how kind of the season played out. And I think that realistically, like Wembanyama would have went first last year as well. That's just how good this draft class is. And the one thing that's really impressive about this draft, Austin, which you're really going to like, you're going to enjoy that about this draft, is there is a lot of length. A lot of talented forwards, whether it's 6'7" or 6'11" or 6'9", whatever height they are. There's a lot of wing players that are going to be impactful at the NBA level. So it's a really good year to have like pick 14 or 15, because you're still going to get a player who is going to be able to do a lot of really good things for your team, even if it means not like scoring, but like helping defensively, rotational guy, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of talent.
Yes, this is kind of interesting. Just seeing some of the guys that were collegiate stars, like Aaron Henry, for example. I haven't thought about him for a while. Tremont Waters as well. That's another name I haven't thought about in quite some time. It's kind of cool to see some of these guys resurface. Now, let's do a little over under here. Over under on the amount of NBL games you're going to watch this year. Let's set it at 9.5.
It's funny. I think I'll probably I'm going to hover right around that number. Just because Ryan Rupert plays over for the New Zealand Breakers, so I'll probably watch at least 5 or 6 games of him if I can. Obviously, sometimes the scheduling's a little hard when their games are, but probably over, maybe. Like, that's like 10 games. It's like right around the number that I would typically watch, I think, like maybe a little more.
So how can we watch most of the? So you mentioned the NBL, a lot of it's on YouTube. Now let's kind of shift to the G League. Some of it's on ESPN, like right now. Yeah. But what are some of the other options for the G League to watch?
Sometimes you can, like NBA TV has it occasionally, which you and I can obviously watch with our subscription to NBA League Pass. Which, by the way, guys, if you don't have League Pass, I really recommend it. It's the best thing you can buy. And no, we're not sponsored by the NBA, surprisingly. But like NBA TV has it occasionally, and then also just I if you don't, go follow the G League on Instagram, go follow them on Twitter, and go subscribe to them on YouTube, because you just get updates of their games. Really helps you learn the league. And you can watch a ton of highlights, which they're only highlights. It doesn't help you learn everything, but it helps you see stuff that maybe you wouldn't have seen if you're not watching them. So it's the G League is one of those things that you have to take like 80% of it with a grain of salt. But when certain players really stand out and you can see the skill set that they have, that 20% can be very important and end up being very, very good NBA players. Like, for example, Chris Boucher was a former G League MVP. And Austin, I was talking about him before, even anyone at ESPN knew who he was. And same with Pascal Siakam. I was telling you and I were talking about Siakam 9 months before the Raptors won their championship, and everyone learned who he was. And that's part of the way that I learned, is by watching him play for the Raptors 905 team, which is, similar. A guy who's going to have a similar increase this year, not quite to the level Siakam did, but Delano Banton, who, coming out of Nebraska, I didn't really know that much about him in the draft, honestly. And now at this point, I think he's going to be a good NBA player, because he showed out in the G League last year. So I think in the G League you can see some things, but just ESPN, NBA TV, and social media is probably the best way to keep up with it. And the NBL does a really good job on social media as well. Even when I don't catch a full game, like, I can see a ton of what's going on just by Instagram or Twitter even. So that's really been helpful for me. Mighty Messer says Ivy to me would be over Scoot, better size, family line. I mean, I get it, but I think Scoot's probably a little bit more talented, which is, at the end of the day, when you're looking at evaluation, that's like 98% of the battle, is which player's just flat out better. And I think Scoot is better than Ivy, which pains me to say, because everyone knows how much I love Jaden Ivey.
I'm still surprised you don't have a Jaden Ivey jersey yet. I'm
gonna
very
be getting
shocked.
one. I think I'm gonna get that the nice new horse jersey that's coming back. I think I'm gonna get one of those this year.
Dude,
So
those Pistons jerseys are top tier. My Grant Hill one is probably like top 3 in terms of my jersey collection. I don't know. That sits right behind my H-Town Rockets, of course.
yeah, well, Austin, for those of you who don't know, Austin's the biggest Rockets fan on the stream right now.
Not true.
And it's I would say it's not even close.
That is not true. That is absolutely the furthest thing from the truth. I don't like the Rockets.
All we need now to happen is for Scoot Henderson to get drafted by the Rockets, and then all of a sudden, Austin will be.
That might not be. And having Scoot and Green, and it's too much. It's too much for me.
Austin would like it too much. Austin's gonna get G League Ignite jerseys this year, maybe.
I honestly was kind of looking at the logo. I'm like, that'd actually be like a sweet hat to have.
I'm very happy. This is the first year that they actually have this logo, and I'm so happy that they actually, they built an arena for this team, or that they moved into an arena for this team. And they also.
Where did they play at? O'Donnell Loan Center. What city is that?
It's in Henderson, Nevada.
Oh my gosh, Scoot Henderson playing in Henderson.
I know, isn't that awesome? It's such a good storyline. But
that's not a new arena, is it?
I don't think it's new for them. I think it's like relatively newer in general. I don't know for sure if it's the same arena that the Aces play in or not. But it possibly could be. Let me look that up.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. Dollar Loan Center. Opened March 8th, 2022.
Oh, wow. So it is brand new. Okay. Because I knew that they just moved into it this year for G League Ignite. By the way, Hugo Bassan has 16 points in this game, which I think is, again, validating everything I've said about him for the last year. But
let's see if you can get G League Ignite merch.
You probably can. Let me go to the NBA store.
Yeah, you can get it on Fanatics for about $28 for a shirt.
That's not bad. Might be actually would be worth probably copying, to be honest, just because of how much G League Ignite I've watched over the last 3 years now that they've had it. .40 with a funny question here about Patrick Baldwin. The issue with this .40 is like, most rookies play good in the preseason. Like, Santi Aldama, who's a second-year guy, just scored like 27 the other night, or whatever it was, 23. Like, everyone, I knew people. There's so much hype around PBJ that it's just annoying to me. Like, he had like 15 points or something, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, he's back! And look at the steal!" And he'll start like probably 0 games this year, and maybe play like 20 games total all season. I really don't think Patrick Baldwin is going to matter in the grand scheme of things, and I almost guarantee that when the Warriors make the playoffs, Patrick Baldwin plays 0 minutes in them because he's just not good enough to play in the playoffs. And if he was, they would play him. But it's a funny question. I know what you're doing there, so I do appreciate that, because I needed someone to come back and give me a little bit of garbage for that, because I was very vocal on draft night, so I'm very thankful you're coming back and bringing that as well. So. But yeah, I'm stoked. Hugo Bassan heading back to the free throw line too. It looks like G League Ignite up by 19 points here right before halftime. Austin, what's been your biggest takeaway up to this point?
Honestly, I feel that G League Ignite is playing with a little bit more flow than I thought. With Ignite, it's tough with so much turnover on the roster on a year-to-year basis. It's a little clunky generally to start, but I mean, they've been playing pretty well together, so I think that's something that, maybe we're not as accustomed to seeing. I'm not sure if that's a product of just having the right players together, or if that's just, good coaching. I'm not entirely sure what you can attribute that to.
Right. I think one thing that helps too here is, wow, a nice lob here to end the half for G League Ignite on really good play design. I think one thing that helps here too is this is Scoot Henderson's second year with the team. Pooh Jetter's second year with the team. They actually have a little bit more of that player stability than you normally see from just kind of what we've seen from them the past few years. So, and like DY said here as well, like I was saying about the social media places, G League, YouTube channel, all that kind of stuff. It's just a good place to be. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the stream up to this point. We're probably going to get ready for a little bit of a breakdown video here, so we're probably going to end the stream a little prematurely. But again, hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more. Don't forget that we do have a video coming out tomorrow with the 2023 NBA mock draft, so make sure you check that out. Thanks again so much for watching, guys, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.